Confined spaces represent one of the most dangerous working environments faced by utilities personnel. Apart from such familiar hazards as electrical contact, workers face the possibility of oxygen deficiency or enrichment, explosive or toxic gases, and temperature extremes. Because of the risks, there are stringent regulations regarding confined space entry. Work procedures, atmospheric testing, personal protective equipment, and documentation are tightly controlled. Even with these controls in place, it is sometimes necessary to rescue a worker from a confined space. This video is designed to give you a better understanding of confined space rescue techniques, but keep in mind that no video can replace practice and preparation. Preparation starts with communication, making sure that everyone on the crew knows what is going on and observes all necessary precautions for confined space entry. Let's watch as this crew prepares to enter a cable vault containing energized conductors. First, they call control and ask for a hold-off. Then they erect a barrier to protect both themselves and the public. Some explosive gases are lighter than air, so they keep the lid in place while they test the atmosphere directly underneath. Next, they remove the lid. Working from the top down, they use a try detector to test the remainder of the enclosure for oxygen content, explosives, and toxics. Note that they allow sufficient time, about 2 minutes, for the sensors to respond properly. They will continue monitoring for as long as the confined space is occupied. Obviously, if they had discovered dangerous levels of gases, they would have stopped work until the problem was corrected. If the monitor were to go off after they had started work, they would vacate the confined space immediately. Results of the tests are entered in a permanent record. If there are no hazards, the person conducting the tests must certify this in writing. Even though no hazards have been detected, there is still the possibility of accident or illness occurring to a worker underground. That is where rescue procedures come in. Once again, the key is preparation. This utilities policy is that anyone entering a confined space must wear an approved harness with a retrieval line. In many jurisdictions, this precaution is mandatory. The harness is in turn attached to an approved retrieval device. If the confined space is more than 10 feet deep, it is mandatory the worker be attached to an approved fall arrest device. In most regions, regulations require one member of the crew to remain outside the confined space as long as one of his co-workers is inside. The attendant maintains contact with the workers in the space, summons rescue services in an emergency, and performs non-entry rescues if necessary. Apart from being instructed in specific rescue methods, the attendant should also be trained in first aid and artificial resuscitation. In some jurisdictions, they also have to be certified in CPR. Depending on the work situation, the attendant may carry out additional duties, but they should not be such that they cause him to lose contact with the workers in the confined space. There are 4 basic rules common to any emergency. Get help. Do not become a second victim. If possible, rescue before attempting resuscitation. Work as fast as you can, since the time it takes to start resuscitation can mean the difference between life and death. Getting help means calling the control center on the radio as soon as an emergency occurs. Begin the message by calling Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Then give your location followed by any information that might help the medical response team. Let's take the time to expand on this last point. In the heat of the moment, you may find it difficult to remember your exact position. When arriving at a job site, let control know where you are and note your location on a pad in the cab of your vehicle. Under some circumstances, you may not have access to a radio. If this is the case, you should ask a coworker or a passerby to call for help. If you do this, make sure you tell them to get back to you to confirm that assistance is on the way. Now let's look at some specific rescue techniques. This simple tripod winch allows a rescue line to be attached to the back harness of an underground worker so that if there is an accident, he can be removed without anyone else entering the space and being exposed to risk. Here, as required, one member of the team remains stationed on top for as long as the coworker is underground. When an accident happens under these circumstances, it is a judgment call whether to radio for medical help first or get the victim out of the manhole. If you suspect the victim is suffering from an oxygen deficiency, you should probably get him out before calling for help. Remember that most emergency services have an average response time of about 7 minutes, and that 4 minutes without oxygen can cause brain damage. In this case, anticipating an easy removal, the rescuer decides first to get him out into the open. Here is another form of portable winch, which does the same job. After confirming the victim's pulse, the rescuer radios for medical help. Immediately afterwards, he starts resuscitation, which he continues until the ambulance arrives. There are some circumstances in which a confined space worker might not be equipped with a retrieval device. This would be the case if the retrieval equipment would increase the overall risk and would not make a rescue any easier. In a situation like this, the best response would probably be to get help from the local fire department. They have breathing and other specialized equipment, which enables them to respond to an emergency like this with relatively little risk. Unless you have approved breathing equipment, you should never enter a confined space to rescue an unconscious coworker. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration reports that would-be rescuers account for over 60% of confined space fatalities. Job safety is a state of mind. Nobody wants to go around waiting for an accident to happen. But when something does go wrong, everyone on the crew has to know what to do. That way, everyone copes better, and the chance of saving a life goes way up. First, call for help. Second, be cautious. Don't become a victim yourself. Remember that time can be as big a killer as accidents. Get the victim to where they can be helped as fast as your own safety allows. Once the victim is out of harm's way, resuscitate until medical help comes.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is truck 23.
No one ever wants to hear this sound, but if everyone plays their part, the result can be a life saved.